to this week's edition of Extra Points. I'm Al Lorenzen, joined by Mark Hansen, and this week you're in for a treat. We've raised the average IQ and the looks on our show by replacing Casey Shelton with Michael Gartner. Michael, it's great to have you on. Thanks for taking the time.
You've also raised the age.
Just a little bit. Well, you know, with age comes wisdom,
There you go.
and Lord knows that we are in need of that. We're going to jump in, talk about all kinds of things with the Iowa Cubs and Mr. Gartner. We're going to talk a little bit about basketball and the business of sport here in Des Moines. And Mark, you know, before we cut to the chase, tell me your take on what's happened this week in terms of the unfolding of the Final Four, the national champions crowned. I know you were probably riveted on women's basketball as well, so I'm interested.
I wasn't until the game started.
I'm interested to get your take and your thoughts on how this week unfolded.
Well, I thought it was you know, the NCAA is, the Final Four is pretty good, and it was this time. And you had a coach who won for the second time with a different team, the first ever. So I mean, there were all kinds of things. There was the guy whose ankle was, or his leg was sticking out of his bone was sticking out of the skin, and so it was a lot of things to talk about, a lot of things to watch.
What jumped out at me, and I don't know if, do you watch basketball?
I do watch basketball.
What jumped out at me is usually the semifinals are pretty well played, and the finals, whether it's nerves, hype, whatever it is, aren't. And this year, you know, officiating, irrespective of that, I thought it was a well-played game.
Oh, it was a terrific game. It was a terrific game. Too bad all the Rutgers stuff diminished it.
Yeah. Absolutely, and the news cycle is what it is. We're going to come back. We'll jump into Iowa Cubs baseball. We'll jump into a history of sports in Des Moines as only our guest, Michael Gartner, can tell it. Stay tuned for more Extra Points right after this.
Overwhelmed? Frustrated? Not sure what to do with your garage? Let the professional design team at Minnesota Cabinets be your garage organization solution. Floors, cabinetry, slapboard walls, and other accessories, all custom designed to maximize your space and be easy on your budget. Let Minnesota Cabinets, your trusted solution for kitchen cabinets, bring some peace of mind to your garage too. Wait till your neighbors see this. Minnesota Cabinets, home and garage on 100th Street in Urbandale.
That's magic. This is not. No magic can help you get in shape, and it won't happen overnight. You need a plan, commitment, and more often than not, you will need help. That's what the Y does best. They have the finest facilities and equipment and a professional staff trained to help you succeed. If you and your family are serious about living an active, healthier lifestyle, why wait? Join the Y today and let tomorrow be the start of a healthier you.
Welcome back to Extra Points. As promised, we're going to get into little Iowa Cubs baseball and baseball in general. And Mr. Gardner, obviously,
Mr. Gardner.
Michael, Mr. Gardner. You'll always be Mr. Gardner to me.
Yeah, I mean, looking for my father.
I was raised to be respectful. Particularly when you're,
when does it kick in?
Well, when Shelton's sitting here, he and I go back and forth. But now, that's why I'm so flustered today. I've got to actually, think about what I'm going to say.
Is that a first?
That's a challenge. Yes. When the history of your baseball club in this town is fascinating to me, and there's a lot of our viewers that have no idea. I mean, I go back into the Iowa Oaks, and then obviously it's been the Cubs. And when did you enter into the mix? And describe the genesis there.
Well, one day I was at work in Ames. I used to own the Ames paper, and the phone rang, and it was a great friend of mine and lawyer and colleague named Mike Giudice. And he said to me, I heard the
Cubs. You said great friend, not great lawyer, right?
He's great friend and great and great lawyer and great human being. He said, I heard the Cubbies are for sale. And I said, really? I said, so what? He says, I think we ought to buy them. And I says, what do you mean we? I says, you don't have any money. And he says, that's why I said we. And so I called up Kenny Granquist, who owned the team, and I said, I heard the Cubbies are for sale. And he says, where'd you hear that? And I said, well, does it make any difference? And he said, well, no. And he says, what if they were for what? He says, what if I was thinking of selling? I said, well, if you were thinking of selling, I'd be thinking of buying. He says, come on down. So I went down that afternoon, and we made a deal, a handshake deal. Wow. It was right before the '99 season opened, and about a week later, the season opened, and it was a snowy night, and he dropped dead in his box. And nobody knew we had a deal.
Yep.
And then potential buyers came out of the woodwork. And Mike and I, we didn't know what to do. We didn't know who owned the team or anything. And as it turned out, he had told his wife, Linda, that he was talking to us. And so I went to her and I said, I had a deal with Kenny. And she said, yeah, he told me that. And she raised the price a little bit, but she was ready to sell to somebody else. And
Yep.
we said, if we match it, will you sell it to us? Because we had a deal. And she said, yeah. So Mike and I, we said, in for a dime, in for a dollar, and we raised it. And I'm glad we did, and she's glad we did. And it's been.
And the rest is history.
And the rest is.
Talk a little bit about Ken Granquist and the impact that he had on just sports in general in this country, but specifically here in Central Iowa.
Well, Kenny, you know, he was a real estate guy with Bill Knapp for a long time, and he was sort of the founder of Prairie Meadows in a way, and got that off the ground. And then the baseball team was owned by a guy named Ray Johnston, who lived down. He was a travel agent. I think he lived in Dallas.
Yep.
And Ray's view of the team was, gee, it's great. It's even better when nobody comes down because it's fun just to be down there with my pals, and he'd walk around and talk to you. And he owned a DC-3 that was the team plane, I think, and ultimately he decided to sell it. And at the time, I was the editor of the Register, and I wanted to buy it for the newspaper, but the newspaper owners didn't think that was a very good idea, and could have bought it for about $500,000. And so Kenny put together a group, and he and the Easters and Rich Eichner and some others bought it, and ultimately Kenny bought them all out, and he owned, I think, 95% by the time we bought it. But he built it up from, I must say, you know, he bought it for $500,000 and sold it for $11 million, so he did okay.
As I remember back in those days, and by all rights, Des Moines, and as far as the size of the city goes, we shouldn't have a AAA
Still
team.
shouldn't.
Shouldn't.
We're still the smallest city with AAA baseball.
And I think part of that was, and when early on when I was there, when I was first starting out, every other week it seemed like they were going to move, they were going to desert us and go to someplace else. And I think
Grand Rapids, Michigan.
Grand Rapids,
Was that
Michigan.
just because of the way you covered him?
I think that was part of it, of course, but I think it was just the fact that it wasn't, you know, it wasn't part of the whole civic thing. I mean, they had a core of fans, but it just wasn't part of the fabric of the town the way it is now and the way it was with Kenny. And I'm just wondering what makes it special now? I mean, it's still, as you said, it's a small
I think
town,
several things.
small market.
Several things make it special. Number one is it's got a long history here. It's not something new. Number two is it's a great place to go. It's cheaper than a movie. It's wholesome. It's family oriented. It's clean. It's safe, and it's just a great ballpark. Just a great ballpark.
It is an unbelievable ballpark.
You know, it's got to be one of the best ballparks in America. You can wander around, you can talk to your friendly city councilman, you can talk to your grocer, you can watch the game. It's a great place to take a date. You can find out if your boyfriend or girlfriend really likes baseball, and if they don't, just
forget it.
It's over right there. And it's just terrific. It's like I say, I think we have the lowest prices of any AAA baseball team, and like I say, it's a great park.
Are you gonna now? I think a lot of people would want to know: is it going to stay in the family? Is that your plan for it, or? I mean, you're going to be around for another 150 years.
I was
but,
just gonna say, he hasn't even hit midlife yet.
Mark is always coming up and asking me if I'll adopt him, and I think that's what he's getting at.
That's very true.
My son, when we bought it, I owned 70.5%. Judas Hesse owned 23.5%. Sam owned 5%, and Doug Dorner, whose dad had a piece, he opted to stay in at 1%. My son now has 20%. I own 50.1%. So yes, it's in the family. You know, I certainly hope it remains that way. But
Now, let's talk about baseball and family. Your dad was a baseball fan. Obviously, I'm going to assume that a lot of
my dad started out as a sports writer on the Waterloo Morning Tribune, and you probably don't know that the Waterloo Morning Tribune, that's where the words WMT come from.
Really?
Yeah. The station used to be in Waterloo.
My life is enriched already
There
from
you
having
go.
you here.
Well, the other thing you probably don't know is that the NBC chimes, dum dum dum, are GEC on the scale for General Electric Company.
Wow.
There you go.
There's a lot I don't know,
Two
but there's
things
two
you've
things that I
learned
do.
that you've learned today.
And I'll forget them by the end of the day.
Yeah, I was going to say you'll be tested at the end of the show.
So baseball was very much a family
my
affair.
dad, who was a wonderful, wonderful, spectacular man, he only made me do two things in my entire life. He made me learn how to keep a box score, and he made me learn how to type. And they're probably the two most useful things I ever had to learn.
That's a great story. What did your dad make you do, Mark?
Well, that's a good question. I think he made sure I graduated from high school. I think other than that, yeah, no, I don't have quite the background. I'm not, of course, that old. But
What's with the age jokes here? I mean, yeah, we're supposed to be respectful.
I know.
We're supposed to, you know.
Well, let me ask you this.
He's going to outlive both of us.
Let's talk about what you got planned for this season. I know the lads are starting a little slow. I think they're.
Oh, we're only 3 games out of first.
That's yeah.
Always the optimist.
Yes, that's a good way to look at it. Yeah,
That's the way I look at it.
Yeah. I heard Darwin Barney might be coming down, or.
Well, somebody told me that. I thought he was going to rehab in suburban Chicago. So you know
Right,
more than
yeah.
I.
No,
you
I
know
don't
more
know
than I
that.
do.
You would know that. Yeah.
We have, we in the city have just expanded, built all new locker rooms, which are just terrific, which we had to have. We had probably the worst locker rooms in the league, and now they're the best. You have to understand, the baseball team is a series of partnerships. You have to have a great partnership with the city. They own the park.
Yep.
You have to have a great partnership with the Cubs. They control all aspects of baseball, who the team is, who the managers are, who goes up, who goes down.
Right.
Last year we had 160 transactions, people going up and down. You have to have a great partnership with the advertisers and everything, but most of all you have to have a great partnership with the fans.
Yep.
So it's a four partnership deal, and we have 4 great partners.
And that business of sport is fascinating.
Yeah, and so this year we have these new locker rooms, which are great, and we always have a few new promotions, and we'll have a, you know, it's always great baseball. It's just sometimes it's played by the worthy opponents.
How
Amen.
important is it for the team to win and to be good? Is
It's
that
terribly important for the players.
Right.
The other thing you have to understand is, from Major League Baseball standpoint and the Cubs standpoint, minor league baseball is all about player development. They're not interested in the size of our crowds. They like it when we do well and everything, and the players like it when there's big fans there. But the Cubs really are demanding the quality of the playing surface, the weight room, the locker rooms, and then secondarily how we treat the players. And I would no more, or Sam Burnaby would no more call him up and say, gee, we got a crummy third baseman, can't you give us anything better? Than they would call us up and say, boy, your hot dogs are really inferior. I mean, we know each other's
hot dogs
job.
are outstanding,
Well, thank you. And that's why we've been with the Cubs for 30-some years. You can only make a deal for 4 years, but it keeps renewing and renewing.
We're going to take a break. We've got to pay some bills. We'll be back with more Extra Points and Michael Gartner right after this.
Are you tired of losing the lives and productivity of your employees and their families to diabetes, cancer, heart attack, and stroke? Not to mention the destruction that these and other chronic diseases cause. In an effort to help, we are proud to introduce the newest member of the Holmes Murphy family, Dr. Mike Abelasili. Dr. Mike is Family Physician of the Year in 2010 and has a passionate and proven track record for saving lives and preventing disease.
If you truly want your employees and their families to have better lives, you need to call Holmes Murphy.
People like to see a return on their investment. Is it time for you to make an investment in your health? The YMCA has great locations, facilities, equipment, and a staff dedicated and trained to help you succeed. And it's affordable to all. The Y offers boot camp classes, a pool, wellness coaches, complimentary child watch, and so much more. If you and your family are serious about living an active, healthier lifestyle, why wait? Join the Y today and let tomorrow be the start of a healthier you.
Welcome back to Extra Points. As baseball season is kicking off, we've got Michael Gartner of the Iowa Cubs with us here, and it's great having you on, and it's fascinating getting your perspective, not just on baseball in general, but on the business of sport. And you talked about the partnership and those kinds of things. Talk a little bit about the sport itself and the state of the union as it relates to both minor league and major league baseball right now. Obviously the fans, all we see is the salaries and those things, but the health of the game right now.
Well, the best person to talk to about that would be my partner, Sam Burnaby. He not only is the general manager of the Iowa Cubs, he's the president of the Board of Trustees of all of minor league baseball, and has been for the last